Good morning, everyone. Grab a Bible and let's get back into the 38th Psalm. 38th Psalm. Thank you for being here today. And we're going to continue to look at this great psalm that addresses the reality of when we're suffering because of our own sin. And David certainly was a man who knew of that, with his sin with Bathsheba, other situations. But David is writing about a very real situation when apparently he had gotten extremely sick because of this sin in his life that he had going on, and so we're going to read about that and talk about that some. And yesterday, as we started in this psalm, we looked at the first 8 verses, and we learned that the first thing David does is confess. He admits, he acknowledges his sin. He begs for God not to discipline him out of his anger, and so he admits that the sin is affecting his life, his health, his emotion, his spirit. And so David begins to confess. And so we're going to pick up now in verse 9 and see what the next thing David says in this great psalm is. He is going to begin in verse 9. He shows us that the second thing we do then is he acknowledges, he confesses, admits that God knows about his sorrow. Verse 9, he says, "Lord, all my excuse me, Lord, all my desires before thee, and my groaning is not hid from thee." And so David is admitting that that his sin, and this is one of the most painful things I think sometimes about sin and about this situation is it kind of brings back to our remembrance, puts back in front of us that basically our sin has caused this, and that God knows about it. That we haven't been able to keep a secret, keep the sin from God. And one of the interesting things here, and we've talked about this a couple different places, is you'll notice that the word Lord here in verse 9 is not all capital letters. The L is capitalized, but not the rest of the word. And if you remember, we told you when all 4 letters are capitalized, that means that the original text had the name of God as, do you remember? Jehovah, or Jehovah God, the most powerful, the relationship God, the God that desires a relationship. But here it is a capital L. And then the remainder of the letters are all lowercase. And that lets us know that the original word was the Hebrew name of Adonai, or master. And so David approaches God with a whole new frame of reference, a whole new idea, a whole new perspective about God. He's acknowledging, if he's calling Lord Master, he's acknowledging that he is the servant, and that he's going to put his confidence and trust in his master to care for him, even in his time of suffering and pain. And so the first thing that David does here is he acknowledges that God is aware of all of his situation, that he realizes and understands that God knows him better than he knows himself. And so he says, my desires before thee, and my groaning is not hid from you. And so God knows that what David wants most of all is relief. And David knows that God knows, and so he is, here he's groaning. He says, and I think we talked about this some yesterday, that his pain was not just the physical pain, but the emotional and spiritual pain. And so I think when David is saying here, God, you know that my spirit, I've been cut off from you because of my sin, and my spirit longs for you. As we read in another place in the book of Psalms, like a deer pants for water. David was groaning for the presence of the Lord, for communion, for the right relationship with God. My heart panteth, my strength faileth me. As for the light of mine eyes, it is gone from me. And so David continues here his confession about how his sin had ultimately affected him. He says, "My heart, it's just pounding. My strength, my energy is gone. The light of my eyes is gone." In other words, his perspective, his ability to see things clearly, to see meaning for his own life, all those things. He says they're gone. My lovers and my friends stand aloof from my sore, and my kinsmen stand afar off. He says to add to my physical condition and my spiritual condition, my emotional condition. He talks about his social condition. He says, my friends and family, he says, they've abandoned me. They stand aloof or afar away from my sores. In other words, David basically says, I'm grossing out everybody. My condition, is just grossing people out. I'm sure maybe because he talked about sores earlier, maybe it was a combination of two things. David just looked gross, maybe even, maybe smelled a little gross. But then the other thing, I'm sure people, especially in that time, not knowing really what was wrong with him, were concerned about was that they might get it too. And so they start to abandon David. And just to clear things up there, when David says, my lovers, probably a better way is loved ones rather than lovers. There's a certain negative connotation with the idea of lovers, but his family and friends were staying away from him. And so he says this sin, this condition is impacting every aspect, every area of my life has been hurt because of my sin, and I'm realizing that now. They also that seek after my life lay snares for me, and that seek my hurt speak mischievous thing and imagine deceits all the day long. This verse is the true picture of kicking a man while he was down. While he is sick, his enemies they try to attack. They're trying to kill him. They're trying. I think really, if you look at this. He says they lay snares for me. They seek my hurt, speak mischievous things, and imagine deceits all day long. I think really probably what David is referring more than a genuine physical attack. David is saying there, I can imagine, something like this. His enemies were outside saying, "Hey, y'all seen the king lately? He's not doing his job. He's laying down on the job. He's claiming he's sick. If he really is that sick, we need to," you can imagine kind of how that worked. And so David says, I'm being attacked from every angle. They're imagining deceits. He says, all day long they plot against me. But I, as a deaf man, heard not, and I was as a dumb man that opens not his mouth. Then I was as a man that heareth not, in whose mouth are no reproofs. David says, they're doing all this, and I'm physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I'm unable to respond. I'm not able to do anything about it. I'm too depressed. I can't do anything about my enemies and what they are doing or attempting to do. And again, but here's the thing. That sounds horrible, but I want to back up and remind you of what David said in verse 9. Lord, all my desire is before thee, and my groaning is not hid from thee. David takes these, and then he takes these next 4 verses or so and begins to describe his horrible, desperate situation. But he says, Lord, you see it all. And so what I'd like for you to take from this handful of verses is that truth. That David says, when my heart pants, my strength fails, the light from my eyes is gone, my friends and family won't come near me because of my disease. They that seek after me are trying to hurt me all day long. I'm so discouraged, depressed, defeated, I can't even respond. But Lord, and I encourage you to read it this way. Okay, I'm trying to change the Word of God. But to start in verse 10, my heart pants, my strength fails, my light of my eyes is gone, my friends will, blah, blah, down through those verses. But, Lord, all my desire is before thee, and my groaning is not hid from thee. I would take what I take these handful of verses as a lesson for us is to remember that even on our darkest days, when we're down, when our heart pants and our strength fails and the light of our eyes is gone, and it's all our fault on top of that. David was in this situation because of his own sin, that he is never alone. Even when our sin has brought discipline from God on our life, God still cares about us. And some people may have a hard time accepting that truth. But when we discipline our children, we don't all of a sudden switch gears and start hating our children. We still love our children. We just have to discipline sometimes. We still love them. Don't hate them. You don't go from loving them all of a sudden, okay, I got to discipline you, so now I hate you, and now I'll love you again tomorrow. That's not the way it works. You love your child even when you are disciplining your child. And even if your child had misbehaved, and let's say you sent him to his room and you'd cut him off, cut him off from the family. You've put him in his room and he's not allowed to come out. But if you heard you heard some crash or something in there, you knew something was wrong in your child, you'd go running in to check on that child because you still love and care for that child. And that's what David is saying here. Lord, this is my fault. I'm being disciplined for my own sin, and I know it. But you still care. I want you to remember that today. I want you to remember that no matter what you're going through, even if it's your own making, even if it's a result of your own sin and your own guilt, that God still loves you and still cares for you and still wants the very best for you. All right, have a good day. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.